Hello and welcome, bookworms. Welcome to this week's episode of The Consented Narrative. We are looking at The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. Now, this book was recommended to me when I went to Sheffield and I went into the Waterstones, and I was just looking at it, was like buy one get one free and all of that, so I started spending money. Then when I got to the till, the lady behind, and I can't remember her name, but she was so lovely, was like, oh, this is really, really good, and it's like half off if you buy it with any purchase. I was like, all right, I'll give it a go. And then I was a little bit dubious because I'd recently been burned on Akatar, just Court of Throne and Roses, where everyone was like, oh my god, it's amazing, you have to read it, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, then I read it, and then I was like, okay, this is not for me. So I was like, oh, I don't know. But basically, you've got this adopted human daughter of a nightborn vampire king. So you have warring vampire clans, okay? And the humans are just cattle, essentially. And so the human daughter of the nightborn king, because obviously he's adopted her, is going into this, it's called the Kajari, and it's this big sort of like event where you do trials that are similar to what their goddess went through. And then when you reach the end of the thing, if you are the victor, you get to ask the goddess for something, okay? And it can be anything that you want to do. So obviously, predictably, this lovely child, she wants to become not the prey, essentially. So what it does is it's sort of like telling the story of our main character, and so I'm gonna say Aurea. You know what it's like when you're reading like fantasy novels, and like when you're reading the words, it just goes but then when someone says it out loud, you're like, oh, is that how it's supposed to be said? But anyway, so it follows Aurea, and she then sort of like goes into this Kajari and she goes through the trials, and it was really good. It actually surprised me, because I was reading it and I was like, because sometimes as well, when you get like the strong female characters, and don't get me wrong, obviously I'm female, but sorry, I don't want to say obviously, apologies, I'm female presenting, but essentially it is a case of the strong female characters have to be great at everything, have to be, you know, can't show any weakness, can't, and I'm like, sorry, what? And then as I'm reading it, she shows the weakness. She realises what she can and can't do. She realises who she has to like link up with. She realises who she has to become friends with. And also, predictably, there are a couple of times when she notices that she has a power that she doesn't know how to describe. And as I was sort of like reading it, I was getting really invested in all the characters. And I love that, because honestly, it reaches a point sometimes where you're like, when you're reading just for the sake of reading, and you're like, I just need to get to the end. But I really wanted to know what happened with these guys. So as I was reading it, and oh my God, the ending. And I can't discuss the ending, because obviously I never discuss the endings of books, because it's not fair for people. If they come into my channel, I'm not going to tell you how it ends. I want you to read it. But like the way it ended, I genuinely was just like, oh no, really? And I was just like on the edge of my seat. And I was like, I need to get the second book. I need that second book. But obviously, because I bought the first book in paperback, I needed to buy the second book in paperback. And I was like, right, I need to buy the second book. It's on my list. And then I was in Waterstones a couple of weeks ago, and the second book was there. So I bought it. So as soon as I read it, because obviously I do have like, I think it's like 45 books on my to-read list. But as soon as I read it, I will review it for this channel, and then I can discuss the ending on that one, because then you guys will not be stuck with a second book. But what I'm saying is like, it leaves you wanting more, and it leaves you wanting to read the second book. Whereas sometimes when I'm reading the beginning of a series or a trilogy, I'm kind of sat there going, oh no, I'm done. And so once I'm done, I'm done. But I loved the way that it was like, that the characters developed. I loved, you know, the relationships within the people that you meet. None of it felt forced to me. Like, it just felt really good. Like the challenges themselves had them, I was like, oh, like literally like on the edge of my seat being like, oh my God, tell me more, tell me more. Like proper excited. And I would 100% recommend you guys give this a go. Now, obviously, I appreciate that some of you guys out there, guys, girls, you know, some of you might not be a fantasy vampire book, but it's not like a Twilight vampire book. It's not even like my Morganville vampire books. It's very sort of like Judgment Day kind of reckoning vampire books. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I absolutely loved it. And I really hope that you guys enjoy this as much as I do. But obviously, let me know below in the comments if you like it. If you don't like it, you know, that's absolutely fair as well. Everyone's got their own opinions. But thank you so much for your continued support. We are getting there one day at a time. Continue to share my videos. Continue to give me ones that you might want to read. But remember to always keep it contento.